think these last 2 years have greatly accelerated the acceptance of dealers that the more information I share makes me more valuable. It doesn't limit my opportunities.
Hello and welcome to Your Place. I am Dennis McGinn, founder and CEO of vehicle reconditioning and communications company, Rapid Recon. At Your Place, we visit guests at their place of business to engage in conversations about the auto industry. Today, we're talking with McGinn and Hayes, director of the NADA Academy. And so I'm anxious to kind of hear a little bit more about your thoughts, but for a minute, maybe thinking about what's happened in the last year and a half with COVID and all the challenges that it's given to all of us, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what things you've had to get your arms around, that this whole different industry with the parts issue and shortages and all that has kind of posed to you and your team.
A couple of big things. One of them is we don't need the inventory that we used to carry to be successful in any one of our departments. Becoming better at managing our inventory, better at turning our inventory. I know that's something near and dear to your heart. And all of the ways that we can do that are if we didn't believe it before COVID, we believe it now because we have the results. And then the other thing, while many of us, many dealers in the industry, were certainly practicing trying to meet the customers in the space that they want to be met in, a lot of us were a little slower to the table than others. And when showrooms had to shut down in many areas, we had to deal with people online more and become very much an information giver, maybe more than some of us were comfortable doing. I think these last 2 years have greatly accelerated the acceptance of dealers that the more information I share makes me more valuable. It doesn't limit my opportunities. So I think a real positive thing of this is that more of us are much further along than we would have been without these circumstances that have really affected all of us in the last 2 years. The way we share information and the kind of information we share. And
for anyone not familiar with NADA Academy, can you take a few seconds and just talk a little bit about what the Academy does for this industry?
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me, and welcome everybody. The Academy started in 1978. So we're in our 43rd year now, and we're approaching about 12,000 full program graduates. The Academy started initially with a single class back in 1978. And the main focus of the Academy is a full dealership training program for managers and GMs to be, and dealers and successors, which is composed of basically 6 disciplines, from financial management through fixed operations and variable operations and leadership.
What would you say? What was your favorite tool and technology that you've seen to kind of help this dealer to customer communication?
That's a great point. I think my favorite personal tool is just use of more video in every area of the transaction. Basically, every one of our employees carries a 3.5-inch device in their pocket that has greater capability to take greater pictures, movies, than I ever made when 20 years ago with my $2,000 setup or whatever it was back then. But the use of that in 15, 20, 30, 40, 50-second bursts to answer a customer's request whenever they submit a lead to us email-wise, and personalize not only who you're going to deal with, but the product that you asked about, whether it's parts, whether it's service, whether it's new, whether it's used, doesn't make any difference. And using it to you use the word transparency. What is more transparent than a video of what we're trying to show the customer? What is more transparent than when we have the car in the shop on the lift doing the MPI and we show them the results of their MPI, both good and suggested and future needs? I mean, to me, it makes everything easier.
Trying to figure out, what are we going to do next? How long is this going to last? And so, but to me, it's changed everything for the better. I mean, I think the transparency message that I'm certainly talking to people about and pushing out in the industry, and what you do for the industry kind of has some of the same context, that we're just trying to make things, in my world, in transparency, uh, all the way from the technicians and the vendors doing work to get the car ready to sell, all the way through to the customer wants to see that. They want to know about it. You mentioned about, the car's up on the rack and you're doing the MPI, and some of the new tools that I've seen out there where you can actually do that video, and while the car is still on the rack, the customer's making a decision of what things they want to do. I think that's fabulous. I've heard customers really like that approach to things. Can you maybe just a few thoughts here about this coming year, and what do you see in terms of the changes and the demands on the what the people in the dealership are going to do to continue to take advantage of all the profitability and the gross, and they've been kind of spoiled because of COVID and the lack of parts and the supply chain and things like that. What are your thoughts about how do they not go back to this thing about, okay, falling into the price negotiation?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for asking that. I think a couple of things when you think about the positives, and I agree with you, some wonderful opportunities that we've had to learn about ourselves in the last 2 years and learn about our team. So, a couple of takeaways that I hope we are all taking out of it is that we can, as I did say earlier, manage and manage very well with less inventory than we had. We'd all like more inventory than we have now, but to get back to, pre-COVID, we had 70, 80, 90, 110 days supply of new vehicle inventory. Even the OEMs are stating, you've seen the same headlines, oh, we won't go back there again. I've been around a long time in the car business since sold my first Pinto in the early 70s. So the fact remains is that I've never necessarily believed that they'd always have our best interests at heart. And the first time a new general sales manager comes in 4 years from now and decides market share is what he wants to do, and they start overbuilding again, I think that danger is always there. Well, what do dealers do? Take away from that is understand, okay, maybe I don't need to say yes every time my manufacturer rep comes in. Maybe I realize now that taking a vehicle that I don't sell very often and stacking them deep and then having to give them away after 6 or 7 months is a really poor investment decision. So our goal when they come through the academy, Dennis, is to get people to think about it like an investment analyst. If I'm managing an inventory, whether it's new, whether it's used, I am an investment analyst. I mean, the goal is not to see how many I can keep, how long. The goal is to see how much money we can make and keep customers happy doing what I do, which is serve the transportation solution. So focusing on the investment side, I think dealers, if they didn't believe us before, they believe us now. All people in the industry saying you don't need to have a huge supply to do that. And then the other thing, I think there's a danger, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit. There's a danger because things have been pretty easy, because the market, the supply demand relationship for the first time in several years has been greatly in our favor. And it's easier if I've got the only vehicle to sell. But hopefully, our teams aren't shortcutting the value process, building value and why you do business with us. And it's not just now, but it's the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You're investing $45,000 on average on a new vehicle now, and you're going to keep it 3 to 7 years, if not longer. How can we maintain your transportation experience during that entire period? And I fear in some cases that on the sales side we have been kind of shortcutting it. We've got the only one, so what? So it's been easier to maintain our pricing. Now, I've always believed that we could do a better job maintaining our pricing if we build a better relationship. And I think you would agree that it's become clear during this time frame, if we give customers and communicate with them, give them the information, meet them where they want to be met, hey, deliver cars to their house, things I used to do 50 years ago. I don't know why we stopped, but things do that. Customers actually like it, and many of them are willing to pay for the privilege. The majority of them, I would argue. I think the message, and thank you for sharing that, is the wonderful opportunities that are still there for all of us. We have these fantastic, huge opportunities, and I just encourage everybody to stay in touch with not only their dealer associations, their state associations and national associations, but all of the vendors in the industry that are coming up with new products and ways and thoughts and ideas to give us opportunities to be able to do a better job and to reach our customers where they want to be reached on a consistent basis. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts, our thoughts together.
Thank you for this initial conversation, and I hope that we can come back in a couple months and maybe catch up again and talk about what's happened since and what we think is going to happen next.